Sorry. Just so that we can post it for other people to see that aren't able to make the meeting. Um, Actually, first on the agenda is Renee Marshall and her colleague Deborah Keeler. They're going to give an update on CTC stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bobby. It's great to see everybody today. How y'all doing? It's so good to see everybody, TPP. It's great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity for Debbie and I to come out and be at the meeting. Also want to throw this out there, everybody. We are starting to do site visits, where we are just traveling to different parts of California to try and meet people face to face and just have a different level of engagement since we've been in the virtual space for so long. So over the course of the next 12 months, you'll hear of these different places that we're going to be. And if by any chance you can pop into any of them, we would greatly appreciate it. Our goal is to really try to have clear and consistent communication between the agency and all the different important groups we work with. And with everything going on with the PK3 credential and just everything in that space, we really need to be working with community colleges as frequently as possible and just having a consistent open communication. So I think everybody will see hopefully some familiar things start to pop up at CTC. I'm trying to bring some of the culture of what we created into my new role at the commission. And so far I've had some really good response in terms of that. But I want to hand it over to my colleague Debbie so she can introduce herself, and then we'll share with you a couple quick updates about some really exciting things that are happening.
Thank you, Renee. My name is Debbie Keeler. I'm a consultant with the Commission and working for the Professional Services Division on early childhood initiatives. We've been busy the last couple of years, really looking at piloting a program approval process as a part of a large federal grant, and that is sunsetting this month. But we are continuing the work, and we are looking at how we can partner with community colleges and look at that, continuing to look at the program approval process that is still underway, as well as our PK3 credential. We've done a lot of background work on that and excited that is moving forward. And so right now, as Renee mentioned, this is our time to really get out there and help others understand more about the credential, to get feedback from the field, and to be able to move this work forward. Our on the horizon too is looking at the early childhood permits and seeing how they fit in, since they haven't been revised since 1993, with this new credential. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but we're excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Debbie. Yeah, we are thrilled to be here today, and there's a lot to share. But I'm going to try and do it in kind of a concise way, which, as many of you know, is not one of my strengths. So we will see how concise I can be. But I did want to share a link in the chat with everybody to start off, and I'm going to share my screen and pop over to a website to show you. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. I'm disabled. Do you mind allowing me to share, Bobby? Or if you want, you could just pull up the website and show it directly. That's fine too. The one I just put in the chat.
I just made you a co-host.
Okay, excellent.
So you should be able to do it.
Okay. So can everybody see this page that I'm showing right now, hopefully?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I wanted to share a specific website or a web page that we just put together really, really recently. This actually just was posted on the CTC website, gosh, maybe about 2 weeks ago. And so we have put together a PK3 ECE specialist credential page specifically to house everything that is going on within this space, because there's a lot. So it's got a little introduction. I'm not going to go over this because I know I'm preaching to the choir that you are all very aware of the PK3 credential. You know that, at the commission meetings this fall, it has been voted through. It is now to the point where it will go to regulations, and that takes a little bit of time in terms of regulations, but we are anticipating everything is pretty full steam ahead. So one thing I want to point out on this page, a couple things. First off, there's the ECE Specialist Instruction Credential Handbook. This should literally be something, even if you don't print, this is something you want to print. This is a reference that you will be utilizing a lot with your students, with as you're working with your partners to create pipelines. A lot of the questions you may have will be answered in this handbook. It talks about the TPEs and the standards and what that looks like. And anyways, it really dives into this credential and giving you a sense of kind of like everything that encompasses it. And really, we tried to put together a handbook that would also really allow for the 4-year programs that are going to be putting forward proposals, which will be happening pretty soon. We anticipate that probably in early to mid 2023. This handbook really will serve as a guide in terms of all those pieces of the puzzle that will be kind of required in order to be offering this credential in their community and in their region. And I am so excited to say that we actually, this next thing that we have on the website, the FAQ, some of you joined us. We had an information session webinar at the end or middle of November. And if you go down here, where my cursor is right now, that gives the PowerPoints. And then later on, we also have the actual recordings to the webinars. But at that webinar, we had almost 400 people in attendance, and we realized, well, we had known that there was a need for having dialogue. And so we put up a Q&A form and we put it out to the field, and it was great because within like maybe about a 2.5 week span, we had 125 different questions submitted. We went through and we made the FAQ and been working diligently on that for a while now, past couple weeks. And that was just posted yesterday. So there's a lot of great answers there, a lot of great information. And it's just a way that we're trying to we're hoping to build on it because we really want to make sure, as I mentioned, that the communication is clear as much as possible. So I wanted to also just share some other resources. I know it's the end of the semester too. So this is not like right this minute. I know everybody's exhausted and they're ready to log off. So this is one of those days when you're like rabbit holing into something and maybe it's 3 a.m. and you can't sleep, or you know what I mean? Or the day you're like, I'm back to work from the holiday, I want to dig into it. That's a great day to dig into this website that we have here. We also have included the PowerPoint presentations, as I mentioned. Special thanks to ACTEP, who had us present in November. We have that presentation there. We have CCAC, CCTE, the information webinar that we did. We also have the Q&A webinar where we tried to answer as many questions as possible in that webinar. And then we took additional questions after that and added them to the FAQ. From there, we have the agenda items. If you'd like to see that, that's the authorization of the credential and the credential requirements and the authorization of the TPEs. Also, for those of you who know Rosemary Wren, she's very involved in the TPEs in general at the commission right now. And so she has been giving her Rosemary eye to the TPEs related to the PK3 credential, and especially is being helpful in the DEI space and with the DEI standard that we have. We also want to share, there's a really great resource that's available from the California Department of Education, and this is the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Teacher Pipeline Resource Compendium. And this has so much, including a really good layout of grant resources and the type of monies that are available for both candidates and programs. I also want to point out, we do have recordings of the 2 webinars that we've put up so far that happen just in November and December. And want to let you know that we have 4 additional webinars planned for the beginning of 2023. We have one, we actually are going to do 3 on packaging the different standards that we have. And so for like the math standards, we're going to do 1 webinar just on unpackaging that and what does that look like. And then we have it for the literacy, we have it for DEI, and then we're also going to have a program requirement webinar that's going to be happening in mid-January as well. Just want to throw it out there. If you're not already subscribed to the PSC News or the ECE News, those links are available right there. And if that's something, if you're not in those, if I would highly suggest at least the PSD News Weekly, because there is so much that goes into that document. It is unbelievable. And then the other thing I wanted to share with everybody, actually, before, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much. It's like I've got so much to share and I've got like 15 minutes. So does anybody have any questions before I go into a separate kind of thing that I'd like to share?
Hi, Renee. I do have a question. It's Steve. Good to see you both.
Hey,
Hi, Debbie,
Steve.
again. Yeah. So the resources are amazing. I've shared them with faculty. I've shared them with our counselors. But I still have students who have like super complicated questions that I just get stumped by, and I read the regulations and try to figure it all out. Is there a place at the CCC where a student can inquire specifically about the ECE credential or their specific situation, because they have units from multiple colleges and it just gets really complicated? Is there a resource yet for future candidates?
We actually are developing some things right now. And one thing in particular, Steve, we're actually going to be looking at developing like kind of some practicum scenarios and things like that, because it is kind of murky in certain spaces. So I absolutely understand what you're saying. One thing though that, and I'm hoping Debbie can put this in the link if she doesn't mind, or in the chat, we have an ECE email address that we can be reached at any time. And the nice thing about this address is it doesn't just go to one of us. It goes to me, it goes to Debbie, it goes to Phyllis Jacobson. And so we are able to be like on top of it and help and answer those questions, as soon as possible. Every once in a while too, we might get a question that's submitted to us that is more like the purview of Department of Ed. And so we try to make sure that we'll respond to that person and then get like loop, Alana or somebody from CDE in to make sure that that question is being answered. Debbie, are there any other places that we can suggest as well?
Yeah, so I highly suggest reaching out to the credentials folks, because or certification, I should say, department, because they're the ones that actually dig deep into these scenarios. And so, if we get them in our ECE mailbox, oftentimes we'll forward, the email, or we will give them the link, to the certification department for questions. But they're the ones that can dig a little bit deeper than what we can, because of the unique situations that these candidates will be facing. The credential is not in place yet, and there are still some practical things that we're working out. So some of the questions we can answer at this point, and then some, we can't, because maybe there are some details that haven't, because the regulations haven't come out yet, and that we're still working through. So, but that's your best bet with very complicated scenarios.
Thank you. That's a great resource. Thank you.
One of the things that we're having a lot, it seems like too, in terms of students, is they're like, where do I sign up? Where's the programs? And they don't exist yet. And so that's one of the discrepancies, is that, students, especially students who are like midway, or they're like, they're like finishing up their bachelor's and they want to start the credential program. We get it. And so one thing to note though, is a survey has gone out across the state in terms of who's thinking about adopting and when they're thinking about adopting. And just some quick stats that I was going to share at a later meeting, but I'll share right now. In 2022 to 2023, so this school year, there's 3 campuses that are hoping to get something created, depending on when the final regulations go through and everything. In terms of timeline, I'm not quite sure how that can happen, but they said that they would like to attempt that. Now, in terms of 23-24, there's a lot more buy-in in terms of groups that are hoping to get things up and running. And so there's 10 CSUs, 8 privates, 6 county office of eds, and 2 school districts that are hoping to have programs up running for 23-24. Again, this is just people showing that they're interested in running programs. It's not, like everything's not out. So it's not the actual operationalizing of them, but it's the intent. In terms of 24-25 school year, we anticipate 5 additional CSUs plus Cal Teach at that point, 6 privates, 2 school districts, no more county offices of ed based on the survey. And then it looks like at that point, 2 UCs may also be offering programs, or they're hoping to offer programs. But as the regulations go through and as everything gets grounded a little bit more, I'm sure those dates will get firmed up. And we have the list of those schools. And so what we're doing right now, oh, you guys, everybody's going to laugh on this. We're doing ecological mapping. So we're literally looking at Kumu mapping. I know, I swore it off, right? I'm like looking at buying the software again. Anyways, there's so many pieces in terms of the relational. And so we want to make sure that if groups have expressed interest, that they have the resources and the information needed to move forward. So we are doing some ecological mapping just to make sure that those partnerships and relationships are solid, and that communication is strong. One other thing that we wanted to share with everybody too, that's really important and coming up, and this, I'm going to be straight up 100% honest on this one, everybody. Debbie and I are coming to you with an absolute plea. Okay, this is a plea. So let me share something real quick. I go to share. I don't know if anybody else ever does this. Like I go to share and I like pull it up to myself, but I don't share it with anybody else. That's what I just did. And some of you are already involved in this. So for those of you who are, thank you, thank you. This spring, so starting in February, we're having information about the Cal FTPA. And this is specifically an assessment, a teaching performance assessment that is related to the teacher permit. There's going to be a work group and a lot of discussion happening about the permit and the different permit levels during the next year to year and a half. And we have this TPA or this field study, like a pilot, where we're having groups run through this assessment to see if it's, to see where the validity is, to see if there's places that need to be corrected or made better, or, really making sure that this is going to be useful to the field when it comes out. And one of the keys with this, too, as somebody who's been faculty, that I think is really important, the way that this is designed is these different cycles of assessment are created in a way where they could hopefully take the place of like a signature assignment. So the goal would be that it hopefully wouldn't be too much of a burden on whichever faculty and their students are participating. Hopefully it can be streamlined in what they're already doing in their classes. But here's what I want to say. As of now, we only have a very small handful of schools that are going to be in this pilot. And I think we're asking at a very hard time of the year. I think this is a really rough month to sign up for something and commit to something. But that's the timing that we need to work on in terms of working with our education systems and the groups that do the testing and TPAs and whatnot that we work with. But the actual work begins in February. And it will happen over the course of the semester, with the majority of all the cycles and the work with the cycles being done. I believe it's towards the end of April. And the reason why I am asking and telling everybody about this, well, first of all, I want everybody to know. But second of all, right now we have, as I mentioned, not enough schools that are involved. And what happens with that, in my opinion, then, wait, can everybody see me now? You can, right? I'm back. I'm not sharing. Whoops, I'm not sharing the other part of the screen, right? Okay. Oh, wait, no, now, sorry. Total tech issues. Sorry, tech issues. And now I lost my train of thought. But so what the thing is about this that's really important is we don't have enough groups participating. And what I'm really worried about is that the data that we get from it will not be valid and it will not be reliable enough. And that's the last thing we want, is to have an assessment that gets, like scaled, that isn't at the level that we all need it to be. And the reality is, we're talking about teacher permits. So we need community college faculty who are willing to run these cycles in their classes with their students. It doesn't have to be the whole class. It could be like you do this and you're part of the 3 cycles, or you're part of 1 cycle, or you're part of 2 of the 3. You can determine what is best for you and what's best for your campus. It also doesn't have to be like every single faculty member. You could get 2 faculty members who are willing to pilot it with, I don't know, maybe 15 students or 30 students, just depending on what would work for you. But I'm coming to you with a plea because we need you. I mean, is what it comes down to. If we don't get more of the TPP signed up, it's not how work should be done. It's not how this should roll out. And by all means, we're trying so hard to get as many colleges involved. But just this week, we had 4 more bail out who signed up and said initially they were going to be involved, and they bailed out this week. And I know what this week is. Like, I know I'd probably bail out this week too. But I wanted to ask you about it. I wanted to see if anybody has questions on it. I also want to say, I know that this is the end of the semester. So if there's anybody who's on right now who'd love to discuss this more come January, I would be happy to meet with you, happy to drive down for a face-to-face. I mean, I know a lot of you that are on, we're all pretty close to each other. Sharon, I know we're not that close, but we can at least do a Zoom, right? But so I just want to open it up, and actually, I should open it up to Debbie first. I warned Debbie too. I said, just so you know, I'm doing a plea today, because these are people I've worked with a long time, and the last thing they want is for something to roll out that's not going to be as reliable as it should be, and with like the expertise that we need from the field. So Debbie, anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah, so this work was funded by a PDGR grant through the federal government, and it's the ongoing work that has funded our California Master Plan and much of the work that you were seeing in early childhood right now. And so the state partnered with this, well, the CTC partnered with CDE and other agencies within the state to as a part of this grant. And so it's been a well over a 2-year, 3-year grant period of time. And so it really would be a shame to invest this kind of millions of dollars into this and not have the outcomes that we would like, because we are looking at the future, you know, at some sort of program approval process. And this is really helps inform the CTC about what that would look like, what are the actual components, and this, the pieces that are important to that program approval process, which the TPA is. And so we just want to make sure that we can validate the work. So appreciate any of you considering participating in this.
Debbie, do you mind putting the link in the chat? I went to put it in, and for some reason it didn't read as the small link. It read like, 7 lines for me.
Okay, and which link was that?
The link to the survey, in case if anybody is interested in any space at all in being involved in that that pilot test, even if you're like, oh, I'm not 100% sure or whatever, we just want to give you the link. Another thing too, everybody can just email me at any time. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Hopefully everybody still has it, but you can reach out at any time. What questions does everybody have?
Okay. I have one.
Of course, Sharon.
Okay, so my sound was off, and already my sound is off. So maybe I didn't hear right. Is this just, we're talking about participation just for ECE, or does this also include K-12?
Great question, Sharon. The field test is specifically early childhood education, and it's specifically focusing on the teacher level permit. So the field test is absolutely ECE. When we go into PK3, though, that's, all the PK3 credential, that's the mixing, of the ECE and EDU. But the field test that we're talking about is explicitly ECE.
Okay, so if I don't participate, because we're not really, we have, a small certificate, fill-in certificate for ECE units, but we don't, online, we don't have a daycare center. We don't have the facilities for an ECE program. But but if there's anything that a community college can do, to participate, that is, it's not necessarily ECE, I'm all for it. But
excellent, Sharon. I appreciate that, and I will mention it to the person who's the lead on that part of the project. Thank you so much.
So okay, I believe this Cal FTPA would apply to a certificate program, because that's exactly where they're getting their 24 units. If you have any sort of a practicum or observation course, and then you can partner with private schools in your area, or those that are offering state preschool to do these assignments with. So this is exactly what we're looking at.
Okay.
So
my quick question was, I think you're going to be at OCDE next week, right? Are
Yes.
you going to make that pitch then? Because my faculty will be there. And so I'm just wondering if you're going to talk about it, that I won't necessarily swoop until they've heard it too.
I know for certain that your faculty has heard it already.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind swooping in, that would be wonderful. And I will also hopefully encourage them from my side as well, if that's okay. But I also know, honestly, Colleen, I think it's the time of the semester. Honestly, it's just a rough time to be asking for more and to asking about future when everybody just needs to stop and breathe for a minute. So if it's better, Colleen, to maybe I see them next week and I do it from my side, and then in January we revisit, you know what I mean? I'm totally fine with that. Or if you want a face-to-face meeting or anything like that, it doesn't officially start till the very beginning of February, but I also know January is going to go quickly.
I'll just shoot an email about the meeting today and say that you'll talk about it next week too, because I know Dion will be there.
Thank you so much, Colleen. I appreciate it. Hey, Yadira.
Okay.
I was actually gonna ask, so is this, because I just forwarded to the faculty at El Camino College, but my question is it specifically for certain classes? Would you prefer practicum as an ideal course, or can it be any course?
You know what? Let me ask Debbie on that one because I want to make sure that we answer it correctly. Debbie, does it have to be practicum or can it be other ECE courses as well?
I don't believe that it has to be a practicum course. Like for instance, if you offer observations for young children, that would be a great course as well. I think you'd have to evaluate with the cycle, the types of activities and how that fits into your coursework. So it may make sense in an observation class, if you have an assignment under child development, an observation. But there are layers of observation. So, and there are recordings where they would have to record, I believe, their interaction with children. And I do believe that it has to be at a center or site where they would allow for that. So I think that's where looking at the cycle guide and determining where that best fit is, but it would just depend on your course. So a lot of them for the practicum have signature assignments in that course where it's easy to kind of chunk in and say, okay, here's the assignment instead of this one that we typically do. But the whole guide or the whole thought behind this is that it matches very well with assignments that you're currently doing in the field.
Okay.
Some of the pieces, Yadira, you'll see are almost like parallel to what you'll see in some classes.
Well,
It's
yeah.
really completely intentional.
Well,
And then with the recording too, just so everybody knows, Rachel brought up to me a while ago about recording and confidentiality, and we had some conversations about it. And so we're bringing that out pretty strongly within the group. And so far we've had different groups kind of share, here's some different forms that they've used, or here's how they've worked to make sure, that we're keeping with the confidentiality in early childhood that we really tried to hold sacred with the children and families. And so that piece of it, please know that we're all working that out together because we see the importance of that and want to make sure that the ECE tenet of that stays.
I was just about to say that one of the setbacks would be, from the faculty as well, and it's understandable, is the confidentiality, especially because, it's children and you know how it goes. And looking at those things, I'm thinking some of our core classes, for example, I teach child growth and development. We do have observations, and we have this is the thing where we have an observation of an infant, toddler, preschool, and then we have the school age child. So then which one of those counts? Would it just be the infant, toddler one and the preschool age child?
Preschool age, yeah, it's 3 to 5.
It's the preschool age is the focus on that. Yeah.
Okay.
But like another thing too, there's 3 different cycles, and ideally it'd be like, best case scenario, the group is with us for the whole 3 cycles.
Right.
But there's colleges that are signing up saying, I'm going to do this cycle and that's it. And so it's like, you can see which of these makes sense to you and makes sense to your program. Ideally, all 3 of the slices do. If not, you jump into the pieces that do. We did an intro webinar, and maybe we can, why don't we get that link? Bobby, if I send that to you, can you send that out to everybody? Is that okay? Because we can get we'll do like a little blurb with the sign up for the survey and then the intro webinar. So if anybody wants to check it out, they can. But also just if at any point you're interested at all, please reach out to Debbie or myself. We'd be happy to meet with you. We'd be happy to meet with faculty to talk it through, drill it down more, get into the guide, or get into it however it's going to work best for the faculty that you're working with. Sharon?
Okay, so I don't mean to monopolize here, but maybe I was too quick to say no. I don't think so, because anybody who teaches family, school, community, for example, that with us, most of them are doing this in a preschool. Not everyone, but it can also be in many different formats. But so they are doing observations, so they are working directly with students. So are you saying that this would could be part of a component of that class? And I have students do this?
Absolutely, Sharon.
But we're not offering any incentive to students. We're offering an incentive to, no. Okay, so just so I get it clear. But then as an instructor, I could waive some of the other assignments and
it would absolutely, they would take the place of, they would parallel the other assignments. And it was created with that intention because we wanted it to be useful. We didn't want it to be like another layer on top of. It's more like, okay, what are you already doing in class where this can fit in and where it
Okay, I
makes
get
sense
it
to
now.
all parties.
So, if anyone else has that same question, because as I say, we don't have an ECE program per se, except that, for people with a credential who want to get 12 to 15 or whatever it is, units of, ECE units, we have that many classes, but we don't have, a program per se, but I think that would work. So I think it would work for others too. So in explaining it, I think, because you want, you hate to let this go to waste. It, could be broadened to explain that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Okay.
And also, I know everybody knows I've only been at the commission now for 2 months. That's why I always defer to Debbie, because she's been there for a couple of years. So she has a deeper understanding than I do right now. I'm not going to lie. And you know what I mean? Like I'm still learning it all. So, but here's the thing. The group that we're working with is spectacular, and they are good people. They actually remind me a lot of the TPPs. Honestly, there's some really, really stellar people there, and they're really trying to find out ways that it will streamline, because they don't want to be a burden. We want it to more like inform our teaching. And we want those, students that we're working with to be the best teachers for California's kids. I mean, that's what it comes down to. This is like, how do we make it as good as possible for 3 and 4 year olds? That's what this field test is, really. So thanks everybody for letting us be on today. Debbie's going to stay on a little bit longer, if that's okay. I have to jump off. I actually get the opportunity to meet with Linda Darling-Hammond and a couple people at 10:30 this morning. And so we're jumping into a quick pre-meeting in a couple minutes to kind of run through before that happens. So please, fingers crossed, everybody, just good vibes, if you don't mind. I'm invited to a meeting that normally my level does not get invited to. And so I'm excited today to talk with them and to get their expertise. So anyways, thanks so much for letting us be here today. TPP, I promise you, and I think Debbie can vouch for this, like in every single conversation I'm in, I'm talking about community colleges all the time. Just know that. So all the time.
Thanks for coming,
Thanks so much,
Renee.
everybody. Thanks, Bobby. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay. See you later.
Hi, Renee.
I wanted to bring up first that when I made the agenda, I put things on there with no real thought to what order they were in. I put CTC first because I knew that Renee had to go to another meeting. But if Rachel or Steve want to go next, I didn't know if you guys had to be somewhere either. I didn't have a chance to ask you. Okay. Then I'll just stick with the order that they were in on the agenda. So the next thing on the agenda is the CCC TPP.
I'm sorry, Bobby. Rachel just put an agenda. She has to leave.
Oh, okay.
So maybe-
Okay. Then I'm sorry. I missed the chat.
Put
Sorry.
it to the chat.
Then
I didn't
Rachel,
put it
you
in.
jump ahead. We're going to go to the community of practice.
Okay, so I just wanted to give a little bit of an update. I was able to host the LPI after party, is what I'm calling it. And I was able to stay on after the last major LPI meeting and let people have a space to be able to talk about everything that's been going on. That brought in some providers who are actually working in the field, having to deal with the changes. And they brought up some very scary concerns. So they were very upset over things like children and families are being told that they have to go to elementary schools for TK and that they are not actually getting a choice, even though the systems that are being built are supposedly a multi system for different forms of delivery. There was a lot of concern around bilingual children. There was a lot of concern around children with identified special needs or unidentified special needs. And so that has led into a meeting last week with Teach, Tri-CECE, TPP. OER wasn't there, and CalBax was there. And so there is discussion about what kind of advocacy efforts we're going to be taking on behalf of higher ed and the community to support the rollout and best practices of everything that goes along with everything we've been talking about. Because we don't want to just have systems built. We want to have systems built that are intentional and that are really mindful to the children and families in the community. So There's going to be a survey created and sent out at some point to get, because there were just so many issues that were brought up, there's going to be a survey created so we can hear from the field across all of these organizations as to where should the advocacy efforts be put the most. And so that's going to be coming shortly. I think we're going to be sending out early January. So be on the lookout for that, because we're going to need to get feedback so we can start formulating plans on advocacy. So that's all I have for right now.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. To go back, the update on the CCC TPP, the 23-24 legislative budget proposal that we submitted. I put that on the agenda. I kind of don't have an update specifically about that, but I have spoken to the Chancellor's office a couple of times related. Basically, it's, you know how Cynthia has been an advocate from day one, you know, even when she was no longer the program monitor for TPP, when there were no more grants. She's still there on this, you know, in the background, advocating for community college TPP programs. So on November 16th, well, I should say I think what happened, what we assume what happened is that finally the Chancellor's office realized that they needed to be supporting their colleges, most of which have TPP programs, and stop this piecemeal stuff that they do with these grants that are, you know, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, whatever, little pots of money here and there. They needed to do something to show that they're supporting teacher preparation programs. So they were sharing publicly on November 16th during a Chancellor's Office Consultation Council meeting. They put forth a request through the legislative process for $10 million in ongoing funding. Not sure exactly how this is going to relate to the proposal that we gave them. She's trying to keep an eye on it, and they have me as a contact so they can send us any information, but they called it Supporting California's Diverse Teacher Workforce. And I'll send out an email to you, the wording that they gave, most of which looks like they stole from our proposal. But, you know, it was just a little paragraph or long paragraph. But then when I talked to her again, I think it was last week, they, you know, nothing will really happen until the next Consultation Council meeting, which is January 19th. But when I talked to her last week, they're actually talking about, I guess there's some talk of actually adding some additional funds to that initially proposed 10 million. And I'm not sure if this is common knowledge, because she goes, probably from somewhere, some other program that's not showing numbers. And she mentioned the baccalaureate program because there's so few colleges involved in that, and they really aren't showing any numbers. And so they want something, because the TPP programs, you know, process a lot of students. They have the numbers to justify the money. But at least they're proposing an initial 10 million ongoing funding. And I know Steve will be happy about the ongoing, you know, so that TPP is funded like all the other programs at community colleges, and they should have been years ago. So that's all I know. And like I said, I'll email out the little blurbs so you can see how it was worded, because I think they just sort of copied and pasted from our proposal. But at least they're moving forward to do something. So the other thing she said is that I should come up with a plan for how they can spend the money, or how the money should be spent. So I want to throw that out there too. I'm not asking you guys to give back to me today because I think we all need a vacation, like Renee said, but have it in your mind over the vacation. Think about maybe, even if it's a matter of us revising our legislative budget proposal that we submitted, so that if they come back to us and say, okay, we're going to have this money, we want your input on how it should be distributed or how, what it should be spent on, and that kind of thing. So good news, but I don't know details yet, but at least it's a definite step in the right direction.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Bobby. That's interesting. I reviewed actually the agenda for that November 16th Consultation Council, because that's when they approved the system budget. Actually, the board of was the Consultation Council. It was, and it was interesting because they put together their legislative priorities and budget priorities, and I did not see the $10 million for teacher prep listed. I know it's in their document that was approved initially, but we were in the category after the 22-23 system priorities. We were in a category called multi-year initiatives. And so, yeah, I'm wondering if we got shifted into the 22-23 budget priorities at the request from the chancellor's office. So I don't know. It's interesting how they're playing this game with what's a priority and then what's this multi-year initiatives and what that really means.
I know.
So yeah,
Cynthia didn't really know either. She said it's a little confusing, and but at least it seems like they're moving in the right direction. It's like I have an update, but it's not an update.
Right.
She couldn't get an answer, from them about, is this the proposal that they put in? Are you supporting that proposal? Are you putting in a new proposal that's kind of So supposedly they'll discuss it in the January meeting.
Okay.
So you can watch that one too. I watched the November one too. So and so it seems to be moving in the right direction finally, and I think it's a matter of the fact that they finally admitted or realized or acknowledged that this was a priority from the governor, and they're being asked politically, what are you doing to support this? And they're going
yeah, no, it's good.
Have all of us out there, but they're not supporting anyone actually financially, so how can they take credit for something they're not really doing?
Right.
And that's when they realize they better put their money where their mouth is, because they can't keep taking credit for other people's work if they're not actually contributing to it.
Right. I appreciate the update. And following up on that. No, I agree.
Yeah. So when and if I have more news, I'll be certain to share it. But that was the news, is that they're pushing forward a 10 million ongoing, and possibly adding to that with some other funds, with other programs that they can't support the numbers, politically or whatever. Yeah. Anyone have any? Colleen, you got some thoughts on this?
No, it just makes me want to carve out some time with Dr. Fierro to get some insight. But yeah, if I do have any type of interaction, I will see if I can get clarification from his perspective. Because when Steve had reached out initially about the advocacy piece, like, he was not even 100% clear about the agenda that the proposal was on. And so it's the right hand, left hand thing. Just
I know. I think I know what's happening, but
well, and I know it's like part of a much larger, like, there's so much, but it's our world, right? So it's like there's this delicate balance of pushing and not, it's but thank you for the update, because it just arms me with, hey, I was at this collaborative statewide meeting, and so if I hear anything else, I will definitely let you know.
Yeah. Cynthia
I
seemed
know
to
that
have hope.
he is in full support of teacher prep. So that is, you know, a positive.
Okay. Um, Steve, did you want to do an update on ACTEP?
I do. Thanks. Hi, everyone. I know Megan and Leah are also in the room, so they can also add. So a couple of important things that are happening too. You all should have received, and if you have not received, the survey related to the 5-year review of the AAT and elementary teacher education TMT. So please contribute your recommendations to the changes that need to occur for that AAT by the deadline, which is January the 3rd. That the work is really critically important to our students and our pathways, and we need to revise it in a way that makes sense based on a lot of the new changes that have occurred with teacher prep and the new ECE credential and all the merited pathways going forward. So please share contribute to share the information as well with folks on your campuses, counselors who have knowledge of working with students. That would be great. I will put it into the chat for you right now. So the other thing I wanted to share also is I know that Leah has put out a survey, a statewide survey from ACTEP, just trying to gather information also related to people's programs and communities of practice that are happening across the state. So here's a link for that one. If you would mind submitting that as well, that will give us a lot of good information about programs across the state. And we're happy to then, we're going to follow up with individuals who have requests related to active membership or even to contributing to our January newsletter or a newsletter in the future. And so I also want to share that as well, is that our newsletter is coming up for January. So if you have anyone to share, feel free to reach out to Megan or myself. I'm happy to provide that. A new board will be coming in on January 2023. So I will ending my reign as president or my role as president for ACTEP this December. So new board, new executive committee will be occurring in January. So looking forward to that. We are looking forward to trying to maybe do a spring in-person convening. We typically do our convening in the fall, as you know. We made it virtual again. We invited Renee and Debbie, and that was great. But we want to do something in person. We're trying to partner with another group or organization that will also be gathering community college individuals and TPPs to possibly kind of add on and bring folks together collectively again, because there's so much to talk about in the state, and in person I think is a way that we can build community again amongst each other. So we're looking forward to that. We encourage folks to look at the CCTE SPAN conference, which is on May 13th and 14th, and I'll put that one into the chat too. That's the policy conference for the California Council on Teacher Education. This is our CSU, UC, independent college teacher ed colleagues. That's where they actually invite legislators, or they actually have visits with legislators, and we could talk about some of these issues, our needs. They also talk with the CTC very directly about initiatives and policy changes and those kinds of things. So it's a really powerful group, and having community college voice in the room is also really important. So that is coming up. There's a virtual option for the conference as well, but I encourage folks to participate there. And then the final thing I will share is that Santa Ana Colleges and Santiago Canyon College, both of our colleges, are hiring full-time ECE faculty. So this spring we'll have full-time positions at both Santiago Canyon College, our sister college, and Santa Ana College. So if you know of or want to apply, we would love to have you join our amazing team. Thank you, Yadira. I'm glad you're nodding your head, because we would love to have you at Santa Ana College.
You asked at the right moment. This morning I was like, that's it. That's it. I'm gonna go work at Marshall's. That's at the right moment. I'm on it.
Okay, thank you. Let me know if I can help you in any way. If you need any insights, please reach out. I'm happy to share.
Sorry, Leah, Rio Hondo's not opening anything soon, and I'm done waiting for Rio Hondo.
Yeah.
I saw Yadira's eyes when he said that. I know Colleen did too. She started laughing. Well, I think that's all of our stuff. The only thing I had left was, if any of you guys have any new business or things. I was actually planning on pasting some things into the chat this meeting, like, Steve, your survey and stuff. But this morning when I logged on and it made me update my Zoom, it didn't update it properly. I'm stuck where the chat is not working correctly for me. So I can only send things to Yadira, a private message Yadira on the chat this morning. I don't know why that is. So I figure I can send some things out via email. But yeah, that's all we have today, unless you guys want to say something or,
I was just gonna say, Bobby, if any of the colleges wanted to give an update on their school, I know we're gonna have a break already and we're all getting ready to kind of like completely, hopefully shut down for 1 week. But if any colleges wanted to give an update on where your college is at, your programs, any new updates, and I don't know if that's something you wanted to do.
I wanted to say, not to brag, but I just found out this week, I didn't know this. The current community college district closes the district office starting today at noon until January 3rd. So apparently I have a vacation. I'm sure I'll be working at home. I have proposals that are due on December 23rd, January 6th and stuff. So, but wow, apparently we get like a 2-week vacation for Christmas. I had no clue.
They're
Would have
forcing you.
planned better.
They're forcing you, and I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So there you go.
Hey, I just want to to announce that, but I think I'm talking to the people that already know this. I just want to announce that Peach Parlay is coming back in May.
Hey.
And I know that Yadira and Renee had done a phenomenal job for continuing it, but we were not able to do it this semester. But we're going to do it in collaboration with CCE. And one of the new things that we're going to do, and just for this round in the spring, is that we are going to be giving stipends to the presenters. So we're going to be sending a save the date flyer next year, early next year. And then we're going to also ask for presenters as well. So I just wanted to get that out.
Leah,
uh,
is CCE funding those stipends?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Yeah,
so out of their budget.
Yeah. That's why it's only, I want to be clear that it's only for this round where we're actually collaborating with CCE.
Yeah, I just didn't want to ask in front of them the other day.
Yeah. After that, we're not going to have the money to pay stipends for anyone. So
it sounds like they have money they need to spend.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So we should come up with ideas.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, Leah and Colleen, I don't know if you guys want to meet before, or I don't know, whatever works for you guys. But I just messaged Leah the same thing, is we should meet and have almost more of like the outline maybe, or just like this is how it usually works. It's totally up to you guys. But Leah, let me know.
Yeah, we need to make sure that it stays with us.
Yes, that's my whole thing, so that it stays the same and that we keep the topics. And I also actually wanted to ask all of you, I did want to do something with and I don't know if it's something we can do. I mean, it's in March, but it's, I wanted to look into doing a women's conference, or having some type of topic relating to women's conference. And I don't know if it's something you all want to do or contribute. I'm thinking of doing it either way for El Camino CPTP, but I'm just putting it out there. Let me know, Leah, if you want to, we can do it together or however works. Nothing big, but I did want to just kind of have a moment to acknowledge that. I feel like we never do really anything for that month.
Yeah, I'll be happy to help with anything, Yadira. So yeah, let's meet.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.
Hi, everybody. This